I never made it. You know, it's about this. How pure I live solution. A cable mamma. A cool let him out in the way me. You know, Dimaris, how pure I live in. No mamma key. Holology Lulune. Chimachina, you don't have to do change. Chimati Macao, Chimaro Muda Democracy, a Poijuke, a Mienivo, a Miapi Dunet, the Gabaluma, Tibusa, in the Makepa. Chimaro in the Campat Idarian, looked at Kajaro. Chimaro ye, a chin, and means Chimaro ye, and ye, Chimaro ye, Muadari go, a Miati on, your time Gwyn, Michigaba. I could now buy Jaro, Chimaro ye, Muada, the Bordiario, a Miati and your time Gwyn, Yala look. Tomorrow, what you have, your young and look near Lara, look much money. Together, tomorrow, a target at your young girl. Tomorrow, net your body. Tomorrow, but your young and I do all message, the do on the top of the that makes Tanya, your young mother, and tomorrow, net your girl.
Concerning the question that Margherita Ghinasti posed to us in the position of President Putin, saying the words that they got from him yesterday in the capital were really reiterating his true commitment to the reform process and to a democratic government. So that's what I have to report. I'm very pleased that there is a coincidence with what Donna Aung San Suu Kyi has just said.
Paula Hancock, CNN. So Aung San Suu Kyi, do you have a message for your supporters, some of whom I've spoken to are obviously disappointed that things aren't running as smoothly as they thought they would at the beginning? Some are very disappointed you're not in Parliament, that they voted you to take that position.
Well, we'll certainly protect their interests. We have protected their interests all along, even when we were nowhere near the National Assembly. But we think that the present problem can be smoothed over because we would like to regard it as a technical problem rather than a political one. And we would hope that others will also look upon it this way and not try to push it to the extent that it becomes a political deadlock. And I am hopeful that it will not get to the point. I don't think that all our supporters are of the same mind. This is democracy. But one thing that I would like to tell our supporters is that there are going to be difficulties, not just now, but ahead as well. We'll just have to get over them.
Are you worried about pharmacists conservative would increase the cost to the farmer reform? What will you do to prevent this situation?
Yes.
Are you worried about domestic conservatives blocking reform? What will you do to prevent this situation?
Domestic?
Are you worried about domestic conservatives?
I think perhaps you mean that those who are not in favor of reform. Well, of course, there will always be those who think differently from us. But one of the beautiful things about democracy is that you have to learn to resolve your conflicts without violence. And this is what we will proceed to do. We've had many, many long years of trying to resolve conflict without violence, and we hope we will be able to continue doing that.
Good to have you here in the world. I'm going to do it. And I need to make sure that international years and other people.
Good night, Gisa, KBB, no, Nabra, so sorry, I'll be already had in a pattern of Mavane, or the EU, a good or Italian Windy. Narekisane be patte lo miba.
Era le miba. Aku ka be chain naw nya parliamentကြောင်းနဲ့လို့ခေါ်
ကျွားအိမ်မေကြတော့မေးဝင်တယ်အခုမဖြေနိုင်သေးပါဘူး။ကျွားအစားရပြောပြီးပြီကိစ္စ။
ဒီတလျာအခုကြီးပေးမယ်ဆိုရင်ဘယ်လိုအခုကြီးပေးဖို့ရှိလဲ။နောက်ဒီ sanction ကိုတစ်နှစ်
အဲ့ဒါတော့ဟိုဝန်ကြီးကိုမေးကောင်းမယ်ရှင်။
This is Prime Minister. I'd like to ask you a question. Discuss with the Prime Minister. You discuss with the President Thein and also you discuss with the Aung San Suu Kyi. This you're going to give assistance to the Myanmar, and also within 1 year's extension, what kind of cooperation are you going to do with the Myanmar?
Yes, I explained to the President as I came back in this topic with Don Aung San Suu Kyi that the suspension of the European sanctions is irreversible only in the measure and if the democratization will proceed as planned in an irreversible way. So this is the basic framework where we see the possibility of reactivating also business relationship. Or we are confident, but we are going to verify in a 6 months time and again in a year where we stand in terms of the democratization process. The development is, and we intend also on national basis to reactivate and to go on. In fact, we have programs which have never been interrupted through our NGOs, which are more close to the real needs of people, villagers, to the grassroots of the society. We intend to continue with a lot of attention to the real needs and services which are requested by the population. But we intend also to consult the NGOs and political forces which are operating on the ground to understand better. Thank you.
Stuart Crutching, Reuters News Agency. Hopefully this will be the last question about Parliament, and I also have a question to the Minister. But can you clarify on the parliamentary issue? Many countries, including the United States, have parliamentary oaths saying vowing protection and safeguarding the Constitution, but that doesn't in any way prevent changing the Constitution or amending the Constitution once you're inside Parliament. So I think many people don't understand what's the point of being outside when you can change the Constitution from inside. Could you clarify that? And for the Minister, when do you think, now that sanctions have been lifted, when do you think we'll see actual developments on the ground? How quickly will it move? And what do you see as the main barriers to investment in Myanmar at the moment?
Well, to answer that question, there are inconsistencies with regard to the wording in the Constitution itself, in the schedule of the Constitution, and the election laws and the party registration laws. This is why I say that this is a technical matter. There has to be consistency when it comes to laws, and that is a legal convention. And we can't say one thing in one place and another thing in another place. There has to be consistency. And you mustn't forget that this is one of the major issues that prevented us from entering the 2010 elections.
Madame Alessandra Farrugia from Quotidiano
Now,
Nazionale.
in answer to the previous question, we have noted also in the set of measures which have been taken by Burma recently and part of the democratic reform process, there have been also measures concerning the economy, concerning the exchange rate, and concerning, we have been told also something which is underway for the protection of foreign investment. And all this, of course, is possible, further investment in this country, and also important operation, important partnership with the foreign companies, especially Italian companies, in sectors like infrastructure, energy, construction, and so on, are possible if the business climate becomes really stabilized by this concept of irreversibility of democratic path. So this links very much to the idea that development could be a very strong force to promote democratic evolution of a society, and we intend to move in this direction.
Madam, in an interview in 2011, you said that you think that a parody of democracy could be more dangerous than a blatant dictatorship. My question is this reform process real? Can we trust this reform process? Thank you.
I said earlier that I trust the President and I trust him to try to bring about reform. But whether the reform process is real or not, that is to say, whether it will go through to the end or not, will depend not just on the President, but on the military, on other members of the government, and I think ultimately on the people themselves.
ဒီနိုင်ငံတိုင်းကိုနေကြတာလေဘယ်လိုအခြေအနေမျိုးတွေဖြစ်လာလို့ရှိရင်ဒီလိုတိတ်ဆိတ်ပြီးပြန်ပြီးတော့လုပ်မယ်အဲ့ဒီ
Well, I have heard from Donna Aung San Suu Kyi that she's an optimist, but a cautious optimist, and I will put myself in the same party in this case, exactly on the same line. I am a cautious optimist, so I don't want to even imagine worst-case scenarios or sudden setbacks of the really light that we are seeing at the end of the tunnel of so many years of sufferance and difficulties. So I would not like to even to dwell into considerations which could bring us back decades. The path is forward, and I think that I'm really confident that sanctions, that we in Europe will be able to remove definitely the sanctions in the future, and not a too distant future, because we will be able to assess the very impressive gains in the democratic process of the country, which should be made. Thank you.
Hello, Minister. Why the solid reason to suspend the sanctions?
Sorry?
What is the solid reason to suspend the sanctions?
The reason has been the process which has led to liberation of Dawn Aung San Suu Kyi, to the calling for elections and the implementation of the election in a way which was, although there were some irregularities which have been denounced, especially by NLD, that have been carried on in an open and fair way, according by observers which have been following this event. And therefore this has been a matter of a very serious and in-depth evaluation among the EU partners, and we came all together to the conclusion that this was the time to give a sense of confidence for what was going on in Burma.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you.
Impossible. Why coi như bị